Hello, welcome back to Sharks Happen. My name is Hal. I am your host, going over shark attacks from the 1900s till present, mostly large sharks. We're going to get started over at Point Lookout, and that is at Stradbroke Island, Queensland, Australia. The date is August 25th of 1973. Bruce Lawler, he is 16 years old and he's out doing some surfing. He is laying on his board. There's a surf ski gentleman that's about 50 yards from him. They don't say how far from the shore they are. But this gentleman on the surf ski actually sees the shark come over and attack him. He says that the shark got him by the leg and clamped the leg and board at the same time and dragged him under the surface. So it sounds like he's got the board and Bruce under the surface, and he can see the shark under the surface wriggling. They do that shaking, so it was probably shaking its head and doing a little bit of, I've heard that they vibrate their pectoral fins in another attack. So doing some of that gyrating that the sharks tend to do as they're attacking, has both his leg and the board, and eventually the man on the surf ski sees that the shark releases him, and Bruce pops to the surface. Shortly after he surfaces, he sees the water turn red around him. Two other surfers make their way over and they grab onto Bruce and they take him into shore. He ends up having his lower right leg injured and his right foot removed. So probably with the shaking, I would think, probably took his foot off in the process. They said it was a 12-foot shark, 12 foot in length. They don't know what kind of shark. I would say that's most likely a great white, but it could be something else, being that it's only 12 feet long. But as far as when Bruce ended up in the hospital, he was quickly stabilized, and he ended up saying that when he was out there, he didn't have even time to even know what happened. He was grabbed. He said the shark took him under twice. He was able to, I always wondered that, how do these people breathe for as long as, he was able to grab air as the shark let him surface the first time and dragged under again. And this must happen. It's crazy that they can do this, but it must happen most often, especially in survivals, when the shark is holding the people underwater like that. But it took him under twice. He said that he did open his eyes when he was underwater and he saw the gray of the shark, but that's all he could say. He didn't explain, he didn't mention any body parts or anything, just the gray of the shark. And before he knew it, that was it. The shark had released him. So that's an attack, not an attempt to predate, by a 12-foot shark on Bruce Lawler. We don't know what kind of shark. Now we're going to head over to Waitpinga. That is a small fishing and surfing beach, and that is in Encounter Bay in South Australia. The date, March 9th, 1989. Matthew Foale is 27 years old, and he is with a friend, Trevor Viney, and two other friends. They end up going to the beach to do some surfing. They get off of work and off of their college school, and they all jump in the car and they head there. They get to the beach at 6 o'clock in the evening or just after that, and they go out and they're surfing for 2 hours. They surf for a couple hours, and then two of the friends get into the beach and they are resting, probably done surfing for the day. That leaves Trevor and Matthew are out on their boards. Now Matthew's laying on his board, and there is a gentleman, Trevor is 50 yards from him, so they're about just over 200 yards from the beach. Doesn't say how deep of water, but it seems that it's 8:15 at night, and all of a sudden there's this huge splash, and Trevor disappears under the water, along with his board, I do believe, but Trevor says that he disappeared for about 3 seconds and popped back up to the surface, yelling, "Shark, shark." So Trevor's 50 yards away. He paddles over as quickly as he can. When he gets there, he sees there's a 7-foot great white shark basically on his leg. It's still got Trevor by his leg, Matthew by his leg, and Trevor now, he says that he took and got next to, alongside the shark and started kicking the shark. So now shark's got Matthew still by the leg. Trevor is kicking on the shark, and finally it lets go and it disappears. They get Matthew into the beach, but he ends up dying from loss of blood loss. He had massive wounds to his right thigh, but it didn't go into the bone. They didn't recover any teeth, so it was all pretty much flesh, and it did nick. It ended up cutting one of his arteries, and that ended up proving fatal for him. So he doesn't survive the attack. They said that this was a 7-foot great white shark. Trevor ends up getting a medal for his bravery and helping out his buddy that's in the water trying to save his life, and at least getting him out of the water. That shark didn't seem to be going on its own, which is odd for a 7-foot great white shark to do that. I'm wondering if it was maybe ill or something, because you know, I've seen them attack people, but usually it doesn't take a hit or anything for them to leave you alone. It's usually a bite and a release, a territorial reaction. They're not even eating anything but fish yet, probably helping scavenge on dead animals that are on top of the water, but they're strictly fish, so it makes no sense that this thing was doing that like that. So I'm gonna have to put this down as an attack and an attempt to predate by this 7-foot shark, because it took Trevor to get next to the shark and start kicking it to get it to release Matthew. So that's how we're gonna put this down. That's an attack and attempt to predate, 7-foot great white shark. And we're gonna head over to Makaha State Park, and that is over in Oahu, Hawaii, and the date is September 7th of 2016. Lulu Bagnol, she is 51 years old, and she is out doing some swimming. It's about 2:25 in the afternoon, around 2:30. She'd been in the water 2 hours swimming around. She's over 300 yards from shore now in 25 to 30 feet deep water. And it's almost 2:30, and she says something tackled her. She got hit. She was struggling to swim to shore. The first person to get to her, he had a name Gino, a surfer named Gino, G-N-O, so you know. But Gino was the first one to get there, but he's on a small board, so he's not on a long board, and he can't put her up on it and take her in. He's there with her. She says that she's having trouble breathing. She's got wounds on her right upper body, and finally the the lifeguards make it out to her. They all grab her and take her into shore, where they do first aid on her. They're able to get her in. She ended up with a bite to her shoulder, a bite to her upper forearm, so that single bite got her shoulder, her forearm, and her back, and she had muscle and ulnar nerve damage involved in that. Sounds like she recovered. They say this is the one gentleman that was there turned around, Gino I believe it was, turned around. He says that after the attack he turned around on his board and he looked back and saw a dorsal fin, and he says that the shark, he swears it was about at least a 10-foot tiger shark that ended up getting her, that he saw swimming away. So she gets tackled out in, you know, deep water, and luckily there's somebody there to help her, because you're not going to be able to, if you can't swim, you're going to end up drowning. That's our attack. An attack, not an attempt to predate, and we're going to say by a 10-foot tiger shark. Okay, now we're going to head over to Foale Beach, and that is in South Carolina. The date, August 11th of 2013. Tyson Royston, 10 years old. He is out and he is surfing. He is actually involved in a 2-day surf competition known as the Governor's Cup of Surfing, I believe it is, that they hold there in Foale Beach. And he is one of the competitors. 5:30 in the evening, he is laying on his board. And I don't know how far from shore or how deep the water is, but the people that are around probably on the beach watching the competition, if not some of the other surfers. But people see all of a sudden Tyson and his board just disappear under the water. They don't know what happened. Tyson eventually, shortly after that, surfaces and he swims himself to shore. Now Tyson lets them know, because he is unhurt, thank goodness, but the shark wasn't even biting on his board. It got tangled up in his leash, and the weight of the shark stood up the board and took them both underwater. Now Tyson reached down, he said, and he could see the dorsal fin of the shark, so he grabbed onto his leash, and that's when he swam himself to shore. And shortly after he began swimming to shore, the other people that were out there watching the water for where Tyson was, they were able to see the surfboard suddenly tombstone its way up out of the water. They call that when it comes up out of the water, it kind of resembles a tombstone coming up. And that's the buoyancy of it being released, and it pops up pretty much the way that it came back down in. So he ends up with no injury. This appears to be, if the shark was attacking, it wasn't a very accurate attack, or it was swimming by and just got stuck in that in that leash. Either way, it didn't bite him or the board, but did make him disappear underwater, which is pretty crazy. He was shaken but not hurt. So that's our story of Tyson Royston. We're going to head over to Scott's Point, and that is at Red Cliffs Peninsula in Queensland, Australia. The date, November 11th, 1960. Ken O'Connell is 17 years old, and he is out doing some surf skiing. He's on a surf ski, and at the time it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and he is, I guess you paddle those things. I don't know much about surf skis. I just imagine you just paddle these things. But he's chasing a shark out of the area, so the fact that it's not a powered thing like a jet ski, I could see somebody on a jet ski using it to try to guide a shark out of an area, but on a surf ski I can't imagine it. Well, the shark ended up getting upset, turned itself around and came back charged and knocked that surf ski over, knocking Ken into the water, and Ken needed to be resuscitated when they got to him, as he had took in water. He probably wasn't expecting it, and I'm surprised that more people don't have a problem with the water intake. You don't hear about it that much anyway, that they don't take in a bunch of ocean water when they're being knocked into the water like that. We had the one boy on the first story of the day where he was lifted up out of the water, able to take a breath when it takes him back under again. But here the shark didn't even touch him, but it knocked him into the water and he almost drowned. So he survives, not an attack. They call these provoked, and that's definitely provoked. It could almost be in what were you thinking, because what are you thinking if you don't have an engine, if you're on a surf ski and you're just paddling going to try to chase the shark out of the area? Just let the shark be. Go do something else until the shark is out of the area. It'll leave. It's not going to stay there. They don't set up camp. They don't pitch a tent. And they ain't going to hang out. So just let it go. That's the best thing to do when you see a shark. Don't chase it out of there. It'll leave on its own. So that's our story of Ken O'Connell. Not an attack. If you call it an attack, it's provoked. But it's not like he was slapping it with the oar or anything like that. Otherwise, you're an idiot. So that's our attack. A non-attack attack. We're going to head over to Bonza Beach. That is in Eastern Cape Province, South Africa. And the date, January 13th of 1999. Evan Ridge, 28 years old. He is out doing some paddle skiing. It's about 4:15 in the afternoon. He's there with other friends, and he paddle skis his way out, and he's about 55 yards from shore, 4:15 in the afternoon. No telling on the depth of water, but he saw a wave, and he just sets up to catch the wave to ride it in. He's waiting for that wave to catch up to him, and his board is suddenly hit from the right side, just smashed into, and he says that he only could see for like a split second of the gray of the shark, and he instinctively took his right hand and punched it in the teeth. Some of it says a snout, but it sounds like he punched it in the teeth. The shark then, after it was hit, sunk its teeth into his surf ski right above his right leg, so close that the shark's nose was touching his leg. The force of that bite flipped the ski. Now he's stuck in the ski. You're belted in, I guess, so he's belted into his ski. Now he's in the water with the shark. He undoes his belt, gets out of there, and goes to climb up on top of the surf ski to wait for the next attack from the shark that he thinks is coming. His friend gets over to him. He tells him, no, there's a shark here. You need to paddle in as fast as you can. But his friend decided to stay there with him until others got there to help him. Others got there and they got him in. He ended up with those defensive wounds to his hand from when he hit that shark. Like I said, he probably was hitting it in the snout, but sometimes they just take your hand right off when you do that. They can open and shut so quick. You're not going to be able to get your hand out of the way in time. So he ends up with wounds to his hand, but he survives the attack. This one's an attack and territorial all the way. Not an attempt to predate. Surf ski ended up with a 16-inch wide bite mark to it, and they said that was a 4-meter great white shark. So you're talking 13-foot great white shark went ahead and came up and bit on his paddle ski after it was punched in the face. So that's our story of Evan Ridge, an attack, not an attempt to predate. Okay, now we're going to finish off our unprovoked attacks over off of Corregidor Island. That is in the Philippines. And the date, June 5th, 1960. Leonardo Mendoza, he is out and he is diving for shells. And at the same time, his wife and his son Aurelio and one of Aurelio's friends are swimming pretty close by. and Aurelio is diving, and it's in the morning, and Aurelio notices that there is a shark charging in the direction of his wife and the 2 kids. He yells at his wife, "Get up into the banca." So get inside there. So the shark is still coming at them when they're trying to get into there. Now Mendoza's swimming towards the shark and making noise, trying to attract the attention. And the shark suddenly veers from going after his wife and starts coming after Mendoza. Now his wife, Aurelio, and his friend were able to get inside the banca, and now they're sitting there. The wife is smacking the water with the paddle, trying to get the shark to leave Leonardo alone. Leonardo and the shark are involved in a battle. They said 3 minutes after they started fighting that the water stained red and Leonardo disappeared. They went ahead and they did a search, and they never did recover Leonardo. He ended up saving his wife's life. That shark was probably going right for her, and this is one of those few occasions where it seems that the shark changed who it was going to go for in the middle of the attack. But we did have the other one where the husband pushed the wife out of the way, and then the shark took the husband. But this one's a little bit different, to where it seemed to have been interested in one party and then went after somebody else. But if you're going to start acting like you're injured, it's going to come after you more than it's going to come after somebody that's not. So it kind of makes sense that the shark did that. Terrible tragedy that the wife and the kid have to sit there and watch that. So this is an attack, a predation. We don't know what kind of a shark. Okay, now finish off the show. We're going to get into a little what you've been eating shark. Before we do, I just wanted to say I'll put the link in the description for the 2 stores. Both are open. Both 10% off with the code PREDATE. Is still active at the Etsy store, which is etsy.com/shop/sharks happen 2 TOO. And the other store, I just put everything on sale at least through Christmas, and that is that sharkshappen.com. So now, back in 1984, coming out of August of 1984, coming out of Crystal River, Florida, there was a boat that had capsized. They found a boat that capsized 2 days after it set sail and launched from Crystal River, Florida, and they found a boat capsized 2 days later. 10 days after that, a shark was caught, and when it was cut open, this is a tiger shark, but they don't say what size. It was cut open, and there were remains of a woman found inside. There was clumps of hair and a leg bone. And they went ahead and they looked into this, and it turned out to be Tomisene, Washington, who was one of the people that were on that boat that had left Crystal River, Florida earlier that week, or 10 days earlier, and then it capsized 8 days before the shark was caught. Well, the boat was found 8 days before the shark was caught. It probably capsized that day that it left. So they found just a leg bone and a clump of hair. The medical examiner believes that she probably had drowned, and then the shark scavenged her. That's probably what had happened. I mean, surviving a boat, capsizing alone is going to be a harrowing deal in itself. So we'll put this down as, Tomisene Washington's leg and some of her hair is what you've been eating for the shark. So that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll be back in a few more days, but always remember that if you go into that water, you are much more afraid of those sharks than they are of you.